Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Chaz Christopher and I post new videos every Friday, so hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications so you can stay in the loop of when I post. I'm so glad you're here today because I have a very important question for you. Will you be my Valentine? No? You can't? You already have a Valentine.
Oh.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I was kind of just asking because it's like the thing to do when you're there. It's Valentine's Day. You know what? Tell you what. I'll do you one better and give you the history of Valentine's Day because we all know I love to look back at the history of why we celebrate the holidays we do. So sit back, relax.
Let's find out why we celebrate Valentine's Day.
So we gotta go all the way back to where most of my history videos start, and that's with Rome. Before Rome became the ginormous Roman Empire, there is this legend that says that King Aemilius ordered his two twin nephews, Romulus and Remus, to be thrown into the river as babies so that they could drown in order to punish their mother for breaking her vow of celibacy. What is said that happened was that they were taken to the river by a servant. The servant did not feel comfortable dumping them in the river, so she left them on the riverbank. Well, the river god saw this, swept them into the river, and got them downstream to a fig tree that they got caught in. From the fig tree, a she-wolf came and got them, brought them to her den, and nurtured them and took care of them until they were able to leave the den. Once they did that, they found a shepherd and his wife who adopted them, raised them, taught the ways of how to be a shepherd. After they were old enough to go away, they wanted to go find the den that they were raised in. So they went and found the cave that was on top of a hill named Palatine Hill. Once they found it, they named the cave after the she-wolf Lupa, and they called the cave Lupercalia. So in order for them to found Rome, they had to go kill their uncle, which they did, and from all of this, the holiday Lupercalia was born. Every year after that, the high priest would go to this cave
and sacrifice
goats and dogs. They would then go and have a big feast from the goats, and later on, the men of the town would go through the street naked and slap women with the goat hide, and the women allegedly were into this because if they got hit by it, it meant that they would be fertile.
Yeah.
Not quite the Valentines that we have today, but we're getting there. Now we're gonna fast forward from this point in time all the way up to the 3rd century CE, where we have another legend. Around this time, it is said that there was several Valentines that the church canonized. The one in particular that we think has the most to do with Valentines that we know today was a priest that got arrested for performing marriages. Now obviously, normal day performing marriages is no big deal. But at this time, the emperor was trying to get all of the men of Rome to go fight his wars, and he didn't want any distractions. So he banned marriage in the hopes that this would stop them from marrying somebody and creating a family that therefore would take their mind off of the war they were fighting. So he banned marriage, and this particular Valentine thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna still marry people in secrecy. So he did. He got busted for it. He went to jail. While he was in prison, the daughter of the person that was imprisoning him would actually come to him and learn from him. Over time, they developed a great relationship, and it is alleged that one day he prayed for her and her blindness went away, and possibly they fell in love with each other at this point in time. We don't really know, but the night before his execution, which fell on February 14th, he pinned a note to her that said, "From your Valentine." Now, obviously at this point in time in history, that didn't spread like wildfire and everybody started using that phrase. That didn't come until much later, but it is believed that this is where that originated from. Now moving up to the 5th century, Pope Gelasius I actually abolished the holiday Lupercalia and is said to replace it with St. Valentine's Day feast. So a holiday for the church back then was called a feast. So for St. Valentine's Day, it would have been the Feast of St. Valentine's. At this time, again, like the Christmas holiday, all of a sudden Romans weren't like, yay, St. Valentine's Day, let's celebrate it exactly like the church says. They've been celebrating a holiday one way for a very long time, so they continued to do that. The only thing that the church was actually able to do was clean it up slightly as far as putting more clothes on. So now instead of the men running through the street naked, they were running through the street fully clothed, still slapping the women with goat meat, not quite anything like the holiday we have now. And you also have to remember that love, as we see it today, is much different than the time we're talking about, and especially the time we're heading into. You to go out and marry whomever you wanted wasn't so much as an option, especially if you were a female. You know, you were looked at upon as property. So there was tons of arranged marriages, and love wasn't quite the same as it is today. So a Valentine's holiday in that time period would have been a little bit weird because they wouldn't quite have seen it like we did today. It wasn't until the time of Shakespeare that Valentine's Day actually started getting romanticized. When you think of something like Romeo and Juliet, there is an actual instance of love there. They were not supposed to marry each other because of the class or the last names or whatever. These were common of that time. But thanks to Shakespeare, the idea we have of love today starts getting introduced into the ethos, so romance starts blooming from this. Now again, this is still for the more elite. If you were of a poorer class, sorry, you weren't most likely celebrating holidays. Holidays were for the people who were more wealthy. In particular, let's say a lady was over an estate. They had high status, there was lots of people who worked for her in the home. When her husband was away, there are sources saying that she would fraternize with the workers there. Now, we don't necessarily know if they had sexual relationships. By golly, that's most likely possible because given humans, we know that sex is high up there. That wasn't the actual idea of what these relationships were supposed to be. These relationships were more of the time that they were chosen to marry this person, but now they had these plethora of other people working for them that they could either have a motherly bond to or more of some sort of other affection that represented more closer to the true love that we have today. As with other holidays, you know, it starts in the higher classes and spreads and spreads. Then by the Middle Ages, people start sending handwritten Valentine's Day cards all throughout Europe. It grows and grows, and ultimately, once we finally get into the Industrial Revolution, people are able to mass produce more cards, so it takes off more and more, similar to what happened with Christmas cards. And then actually in Kansas City, Hallmark is born, and they start making it even easier for ordinary folks to send out cards, making it all the way to the industry it has become today. Now we have where we ask each other to be our Valentines, possibly because of some guy named Valentine that signed it to a girl saying your Valentine, from it taking on a holiday that used to be based off fertility, furthermore making its way to the wealthy people, to the Middle Ages, to Shakespeare, to people making handwritten cards out of lace. Also around this time, they assumed it was bird mating season, which went perfectly well with February 14th, to Hallmark ultimately taking it on, to us standing here right now, either celebrating Valentine's Day, Single Awareness Day, or ignoring it altogether. Did you learn anything new? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, show me that too by giving this video a thumbs up. And most importantly, you do you, I'll do me, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye everybody.